The 2016 Falcons, North America's finest football team. Look at them in all their glory as they've trounced their way to finish the season 11-5. When they cooked the birds from across the continent in a 36-20 stomp of the Seattle Seahawks, as QB Matt Ryan would cook them for 338 passing yards, and then against the Green Bay Packers would lead an even more stellar performance as he would score 44 points to prevail over the Packers, which was a 23-point victory. And here they are, watching an incomplete pass to Julian Edelman on 3rd and 3 as they hold on to a healthy 25-point lead with only 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And surely they must be about to celebrate such a decisive victory as they complete one of the greatest postseason runs of all time to take down the greatest dynasty in football history. But for those who are in the know, you know this is not how things are going to stay. And the Patriots wouldn't just make it close, but they were going to sneak in points here and there until they drained that 25-point lead down to nothing. Like how I recently found this pesky subscription to a streaming service that I was no longer even using had drained my bank account without me noticing. Which is why I'm glad that I have someone on defense for me, like this video sponsor, Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the app that you need to save and manage your money better. This is the perfect app to use to cancel those unwanted subscriptions and so many others that I had completely forgotten that I had. That's right. I didn't have to go out and play defense myself, so like the opposing quarterback this game, I did my part and sat on the sideline and let my defense handle business the same way I let Rocket Money take care of the service calls, and I started saving money immediately. So pull your own amazing comeback story and download the Rocket Money app today or go to rocketmoney.com/Isaac Punts to not just take control of your financial future, but pull off the miraculous financial comeback, which isn't unlike what Brady was feeling in the fourth quarter. But to really understand why Brady's comeback was so miraculous and so impressive, aside from the fact that he wasn't assisted by a convenient app, we've got to take you back to the start of this season to even understand the two teams that were playing. Most notably, we'll start with this Atlanta Falcons team. You see, if you've just been keeping up with football the last 2 or 3 years, you would say the Falcons are actually not a very good team. Quarterback struggles, defensive struggles, offensive struggles, they're just a mess. And you can point to this game and this season as to why. Because the 2016 Falcons were good. Like, really good. Matt Ryan, on his 9th year with the team, was just firing on all cylinders. I'm talking about firing on cylinders we didn't even know he had. Don't believe me? Look at their game against the Raiders. They had a slow first half with only one notable drive where Matt would piece apart the Oakland defense for 75 yards and a touchdown. But in the second half, this second drive, he would go berserk and only use 5 plays and 4 completions to cover 85 yards and a score. Next drive, he'd go another perfect 4 for 4 with a 48-yarder to Julio Jones to cover 75 yards in 6 plays, and the very next drive would complete 2 more attempts, and his run game would hammer this battered defense, where in 3 drives and 16 plays, the offense would complete every single pass, going 10 for 10 and 172 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air, while running the rest of the 38 yards in 6 plays, all in 3 back-to-back-to-back drives. They were just unstoppable when everything clicked, and this wasn't even their best game. I just wanted to whet your chops a little bit, because 2 weeks later they'd be taking on division rivals Carolina Panthers in their own house, and Matt must have had someone piss in his cereal, and Julio Jones must have woken up on the wrong side of bed, because what they were about to do to this Panthers team would violate the Geneva Conventions. While the 48 points scored by the Falcons may not necessarily blow you away, what will is the 503 passing yards put up by Matt Ryan, and of those 503 yards, 300 of them came from Julio. These two would be absolutely unstoppable play in and play out, with some insane completions like one for 43 yards, 53 yards, and a 75-yarder all in one game from one receiver. This set the tone for the entire season, as they would finish out with the highest scoring offense, the second most yards, the second most passing touchdown, the highest net yards per attempt on passing, and the highest scoring percentage, just running away with it. In historic fashion, they would take this momentum into the postseason, and as I previously alluded to, would take absolutely zero prisoners. They would score 19 points in the second quarter against the Seahawks, including a safety where, get this, it actually was a punt that was returned 80 yards, but some asshole was holding, so it's listed as a 6-yard penalty, but it's really worth, like, what's that? He went from the opposite 7 going towards the end zone to the 6 coming out of his own end zone. That's what, 77 yards? Yeah, some dickhead got a 77-yard penalty and took away what was almost guaranteed points from the Seahawks and gave it to the Falcons in form of a safety, where they'd also have to safety punt it back and give it to Matt Ryan, who would lead the offense on a short 40-yard drive where they'd connect on a field goal and then score again in short order after forcing a punt to have the score go from 10-7 to 10-19 in a heartbreakingly fast pace. But that's not all, because they'd also go on to score 2 more touchdown drives and a field goal drive to secure a very solid 16-point lead that they would ride out to victory and win the game on, where they'd put up 422 yards of offense. Then they'd take the notorious goose egg laying Packers to the playoffs, and they'd do them even dirtier than the Dirty Birds. Wait, the Falcons are the Dirty Birds? Oh, I don't know why I thought it was the Seahawks. I guess Atlanta is dirty, so that checks out. But the Packers were absolutely not ready for this game due to injuries, and it just showed in such a painful way. I mean, aside from just one goofy mistake on one drive in the first half, they would score on every single drive while holding the Packers to a goose egg in half one. They wouldn't slow down either in the second half, trading touchdowns with the Packers until the score was a depressing 44-21 blowout to let the Falcons do cartwheels into the Super Bowl, where they would be taking on the Brady-led Patriots. So they line up for the Super Bowl kickoff, and they... What? You want an intro to the 2016 Patriots? What, have you been living under a rock? You know what? Whatever. But this is the only intro I'm doing for this stupid franchise, okay? The Patriots were good. Not just good, but like legendarily good. Led by Tom Brady, who surely needs no introduction, but he has played in 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them to this point. This team was so exceptionally good this year that they played their first 4 games of the season with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett, and one of those games, Brissett threw the ball for a total of 103 yards. And they went 3-1 during that stretch and won the game where Brissett threw the ball for 103 yards too. But with weapons like Edelman, Gronkowski, Blount, Lewis, toting the rock as well, there was no surprise that they were the 3rd best offense in the league. But even more impressive was their stout defense, who was the best in the league that year. So they would combine to create some insane performances, like when they would absolutely stomp the Jets 41-3, or when Brady torched the Browns with 406 passing yards as they steamrolled them and only lost a single game with Brady at the helm, as the, wait for it, we're about to complete a small circle, okay? The Seattle Seahawks got their revenge as to, get this, Brady threw the ball at the 1-yard line on 4th down with the game on the line and pretty much gave the game to the Seahawks. How dumb is that? Now, I'm sure if the shoe were on the other foot, the Seahawks would simply hand the ball off, especially if they still had that running back, Marshawn Lynch. That guy was unstoppable. But I digress. They finished 14-2, and they were just as dominant in the postseason as they were in the season, as they dumpstered the Texans by holding them to only 3 points in the second half, while they put up a clean 17 in both halves, and then they would dominate the Steelers, where it really wasn't even as close as the score looked, and the score didn't even look close. But they were on their back foot all game, and were only ever within 4 points once. Yes, 4 points because Boswell missed the PAT, just adding on to the fact that nothing was going right for the Steelers that game. As we had two teams who just dominated their seasons and rolled through the playoffs just for boom, boring ass game. Yeah, the Patriots looked, you can't even describe it as a sleep. I'm talking about if Prince Charming came in here and dang near dry humped them, they still wouldn't have woken up. And for what it's worth, for the first 5 drives, no one was really doing anything. It was a punt off like no other. Definitely not something the Patriots were going to be used to doing in Super Bowls. Yeah, not yet. At least, but when Brady hands it off to Blount, he drives through traffic, gets to up, but like a man who goes to an airport to yell something that rhymes with I rav alarm, he got stripped, giving the ball back to the Dirty Birds at the 29, where things would burst open. This double goose egg game at the start of the second quarter would quickly turn into a 0-7 game with a pair of Julio Jones passes doing a lot of the heavy lifting that drive, and then the Patriots would be forced to punt and not have a very good punt at that, and another pair of deep passes, one to Gabriel and the other to Jones, moves them into scoring position 3 plays later, where they'd hit a home run with a 19-yard strike of all things. And then if that wasn't bad enough, as the Patriots were beginning to put together their own drive, a corner beautifully reads and undercuts a pass to take it 82 yards to the house, setting a Super Bowl record in what was a total trouncing of the Patriots at this point. Now, Brady would leave a good field goal drive, which would take us to halftime, and the Patriots would come out just as flat as they left. The Falcons would get the ball and punt, and the Patriots would punt back, and Matt Ryan would continue to dice apart this third-ranked defense with 2 passes to Gabriel for a combined 51 yards, doing most of the heavy lifting on this drive before sealing up another touchdown to bring the score to 28-3 with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Then the perfect storm would happen. Brady would begin to drive. Nothing crazy, but just short passes, keeping things under 10 yards, taking whatever the defense gave him, as in their minds, they thought the Patriots would be trying to throw the ball downfield, trying to score as quickly as possible, not realizing what was about to happen. So, in a lengthy 6-minute drive, the Patriots would score, but the PAT was no good, only making their chances of coming back that much harder. But 6-minute drives would not be good enough, especially if the Falcons could good pass, holding penalty, incomplete, and a sack for -9 yards, followed by a delay of game. What was that, Falcons? You went 15 yards in the opposite direction on this drive, and they pretty much just gave you free points by attempting the onside kick this early. Well, you know what? Whatever, Falcons. They're going to punt it away, but you guys have to stop giving up these chunk plays. But now they'd clamp down a bit more, and Brady would just start completing deeper passes and driving the ball again on the Falcons. Please, don't do this. Just whatever you're doing in the first half, go back to that. They would hold them to another field goal, so they would get a breath of fresh air, as the Patriots would not only have to score twice, but get both 2-point conversions after looking completely limp-dick and tripping over themselves for the better part of 3 quarters. They also only had 9 minutes to do it. But this time, the Falcons looked ready for the onside kick, so Gostowski pops it over to the 17-yard line, and now Matt Ryan just needs to put together a nice little bit of, oh my god, Matt! I just have a confession while we're here. When I was watching this game, I was in Virginia, and I had to be back in the southern half of North Carolina for class the next morning. So right as the Falcons scored in the third quarter, I told my host thank you and left, so I didn't get to witness this comeback. But if you're a Falcons fan watching this, can you just tell me exactly how you felt at this very moment? I'd be very interested. But yeah, Matt gets strip sacked, and the Pats are gifted scoring position where they would do just that. But once again, fret not. The Falcons could score. They could kick a field goal, or they could just put together a 5-minute drive, and this game would be over. And holy crap, it's starting off strong with a 39-yard pass. And then boom, another 27-yard pass to Julio. And they're in scoring range, so you just have to run the ball 3 times. And oh my god, Matt, you cannot take a sack here. No, not a holding call too. Incomplete pass. And what could have been a kick that iced this game was now a punt, giving legendary quarterback Tom Brady the ball back with more than enough time to win this game. And of course, we all know how this next drive goes with the Edelman catch and Tom Brady doing the Tom Brady trademark things. And then we all know how the story ends. points. Nothing can be attributed to this comeback, more than the Patriots just stopping tripping over themselves and playing like the team that they were supposed to be. But the Falcons just forgetting to throw the ball to Julio, not being able to get anything going on offense in that second half, and their defense entirely collapsing is something that happens that can only be described as the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.